Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Swimrun Show podcast. This week's guest is a very interesting chap, introduced to me by Michael Lamel, the godfather of Swimrun, of course. It's Mark Turner. He set up OC Sport with Ellen MacArthur, the famous sailor, record-breaking sailor. He raced across the Atlantic against Ellen and did all sorts of stuff for years and set up various races we'll hear briefly about soon. And he worked for Volvo Ocean Race and then left all of that behind and set up his own passion, UltraSwim 33.3, which is a multi-day, kind of a long weekend of various races and experiences. Currently in Croatia and Montenegro, but he's looking to grow locations. It sounds awesome, and it'd be cool to have a similar kind of concept in Swimrun. So yeah, let's just crack on. Here he is, Mark Turner, founder of UltraSwim 33.3. Okay, so we have Mark Turner here today on the podcast. All the way, well, how are you doing, Mark? Before we get to where you are, how are you getting on?
Great, yeah. I'm actually in Chamonix Mont Blanc today, which the blue sky, sunshine, and a ski powder day by the look of it up the mountain. So,
oh wow,
yeah, great place to be this time of year.
Yeah. Oh, do you live down there, or are you on holiday?
So we're based in Lausanne in Switzerland, but I've been living kind of on and off in Chamonix for the last 25 years. Even when I was a UK base, I'd still spend most of my time here and summer and winter since the mid-90s. So I have a French wife, so there's a French connection as well. And but since 12, 13 years now, we've been based in Switzerland, which is where I had my old business based, where we started the outdoor event side of things with Geneva Marathon and other events in the area. So we had an office in the UK and then one in Lausanne to run the outdoor event side of things, cycling and trail running and different events. So moved on from that 6-7 years ago, but from that company, but my original company. But yeah, okay. So I'm a long way from the sea, which is where my origins were, because it was in sailing on the Isle of Wight, which is where I started out. So with Ellen MacArthur, we were partners in my original business in the sailing world. So
okay, so hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Let's rewind a little. So Mark's founded UltraSwim 333 or 33.3 kilometers. We'll talk about that, what that's about. And he's just rattled off just all sorts of events he's organized over the years. Here we go. So in the UK, you started something with Ellen MacArthur, obviously the famous sailor.
Yeah, started working with Ellen. We both raced across the Atlantic single-handed in solo in 1997 in a thing called the Mini Transat, stupid little 6.5 meter boats. We raced against each other. And then after that race, I hung up my sea boots and really started to manage everything behind her campaigns. So that was the main one, big one in 2000. She did the Vendée Globe, which is single-handed around the world non-stop, that we got sponsorship for. And then I ran, basically was running everything else behind the scenes. And then she broke the round the world single-hand record in a big multi-hull, big trimaran in 2004-05. And at the same time, we were partners in the business, and we grew that business, added other athletes that we managed, and then added other events in sailing in the first 10 years. So we created events around the world in sailing events. And then 2010, she'd kind of hung up her sailing boots and went off to focus on her Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is a circular economy thing, which she still runs in a big way today. And I brought someone else in who came from the company ASO that organised the Tour de France, amongst other things. A guy called Remy. I brought him in and brought Ellen out, gave that part of the company to this guy Remy, and he came with huge experience and knowledge in cycling, in outdoor and running and outdoor events. And so we then started building events. The big one was in cycling, a thing called the Haute Route, multi-day cycle race across the Alps, Pyrenees, Dolomites. And we grew that in 2011 through to Ironman, bought that last year or the year before last. And I'd long left the company by then. But so we built that up and in the end, I think we were doing events in 23 countries at one point across sailing, running, trail, and cycling, a bunch of other sports, triathlon and different things. So it became a small company compared with the giants, the Ironmans and things like that, but lots of kind of niche events in different places, in different sports, but all outdoor, all close to nature, all with an emotional payback, let's say, in the way that you create a platform for people to extend themselves. So it's probably the commonality across all of the different things. But started out in the UK in sailing on the Isle of Wight, based in Cowes, office that grew there, and with Ellen, which was an amazing decade of in the sailing side, kicking things off.
So that's quite. I mean, I've talked to quite a few organisers over the years, and I've never spoken to one who organises sailing events and triathlon. So that's quite different. Was it Geneva Triathlon you organised?
Geneva Marathon, and and then there's a triathlon in Geneva. Now the company organises still actually, and I think my company's now also got one in Evian. I think they just started one as well. So we dipped into all sorts of different sports, trail running, the UTMB, and if you follow the UTMB and ultra trail side of things. But it was my company, my partner Remy, who in particular created what is the international franchise now. They've got, I think, 34 or whatever it is, by UTMB events all over the world. So again, that was OC Sport, my company, that created that, where you have to qualify in these events and to get through to the UTMB in Chamonix. So lots of different sports, but all with some common threads: endurance, outdoor, non-fossil fuel, everything else. So, but you're right, sailing's very different in that. Also, commercially, professional sailing is all about sponsorship. You have to raise 7-figure sums of money just to do it. With commercial sponsorship. So, and that's with Ellen. That's when I spent 10 years doing that. And when I left my company and we sold it, and I left it in 2016, I went and ran the Volvo Ocean Race, which is the old Whitbread, so the race that I competed in when I was 21, and then run some teams in 20 years ago, and then 2010 and 2014, and I ran it as the CEO of the Volvo Ocean Race organization based out in Spain in 2016, 2017, 18, and then since then took a bit of a slow down a bit, and COVID came along as well, and then more recently couldn't stop myself. Told myself I'd never go back into events, to be honest, because it's the hardest of all things to run events, as I think you know well. But couldn't help myself creating this new swimming product that I've been thinking about for a long time, since we created the Alt Route and Cycling multi-day endurance event. I've always wanted to go create the same thing in swimming. Now I'm head in, hands on, and back to a bit where I was 20 years ago at the coalface, basically making this one happen.
So it's Ultra 33.3, which is a distance of the channel. Oh, there's an aeroplane going overhead there. Can you hear that? So that's the distance of the channel, the English channel. I guess, it varies a little bit depending on the tide. But tell us about so that's the distance in total. Is it over several days? How does it work?
Yeah, so obviously the English channel is a bit like the Everest a bit in swimming. It's not necessarily the most difficult challenge in swimming, but it's, I think, most people would go to it as a go-to place. Personally, I've never not done it, and I'm not actually interested in doing it either on a personal front. I think it's a bit too cold, dark. You have to train in the cold too much and everything else. But the distance is iconic. Obviously, most people that swim it, they cross the ground. They are always doing more than 33.3 kilometers. But the direct, point to point is 33.26 kilometers or something. So it's an iconic distance. That's a long, big swim that you kind of have to dedicate most people a few years to get to, and a waiting list, and then your weather window. It's a very difficult one to actually do, and expensive by the time you've done all these. You missed your window, and then you have to wait for another window, and etc. So trying to make that iconic distance, but in a way that's actually not quite as difficult on all fronts, but equally a big challenge for most swimmers, yet accessible, yet doable if you're focused and determined. So it's 33.3 kilometers in total, but split over 5 or 6 swims over 4 days, a long weekend, basically Friday to Monday. The distances vary, but there's actually, it's physiologically, there's a nice and I've learned this from the cycling, from the Alt route as well. You have a first day, people go a bit too hard, and you go, and the body's saying, okay, that was good, but you're not doing it again, are you? The second day, there's this overcompensation thing where your body forces your heart rate to stay a bit lower because you're going, whoa, what are you doing? Second day. So we make the second day. First day, we split into 2 swims. Second day, we make it a slightly longer single swim, like 7 or 8K. And then on third day, we have the marathon. So always above 10K on the third day. And then the fourth day, we wind back down again to whatever we need to do 33.3, but 4 or 5K. So there's this kind of build up, and you're nervous. You can't get your head around it. The first time I did these kind of distances, unless you're swimming super long distances all the time, it's quite a challenge. You're not just doing one long swim. You're doing a number of them, and a 10K swim is a major challenge for most people. So building that up and doing that on the third day, you've got this in your mind. But then people do it. They do it. They nail it, and equally they put each other along. And multi-day is so different because you're creating new friends. You're getting to swim with similar people each day. You get to find your tribe, if you like. Yet everyone really helps each other along as well, and the atmosphere on the finish line, and then the buzz. And we're doing point to point, which is the other thing. So the easiest swimming event to organise is put 4 marks in the water, 2 kilometre lap, and just do laps. I mean, it's 100 times easier to organise. But open water swimming should not be that, in my view. I mean, it should be, as you've successfully organised and been involved in as well. But down a river, across a crossing, across a bay, around the cliff, that's the spirit of open water swimming. So we've tried to match the event to what I think the trigger points for why people do open water swimming are. It's about as complicated as you can get in terms of then how you do it, especially point to point, because we're starting the next day as much as we can. We're starting the second day where we finished the first day and try and do some kind of journey. So you're also visualizing a point to point. In our event in Montenegro, our founding event, we're going around a peninsula, and equally including a country to country from Croatia to Montenegro. In Croatia, we're going around the western island of Var, off of Split in Croatia. So it's we're trying to have a journey and do that. So you're imagining your days ahead of you, and you understand where you're going. Of course, the weather can make things complicated. But yeah, point to point, 4 days of swimming. Some of the legs sometimes are non-timed. It's mostly timed. Mm-hmm. It is a race. We call it a race, so you understand it is a starting gun. There are some cut-off times, but 90% of the people there have absolutely no, concept of that they're trying to win it or anything. So it's about finishing for most people, finishing the distance. And yet the fact it's in a race environment is what drags people along and pulls people along, and adds, you push yourself slightly harder, so you get out of your comfort zone a bit more than you would do if it was simply a swim holiday, for example, which are fantastic, but it's not the same feeling, and people can achieve things they never imagined. And that's really what we're trying to do, is give them that challenge, which is accessible but nonetheless a challenge.
So just touched on the swim holiday aspect there. Is I believe you did a swim, not the swim trek that's the UK business, but a swim trek in Morocco with whereabouts, what was that?
It's in a place called, it's been going, I think it's 8 editions now, although I think they've counted the COVID years as editions, but when it didn't happen. But it's in a place called Dakhla, which is a kite surf spot in right in the south of Morocco, and out of season a bit for the kite surfing, so it's not too busy. It's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you're swimming in the Sahara Desert, basically, surrounded by sand, and it's organised by a Moroccan French girl called Edith. It's pretty wild. It's pretty out there on all aspects. But that was for me a way of validating. Swimming this event was a bit of validating. It's about 30K over 4 days. So it's a great way for me to validate the concept. My approach from a swimming point of view is a similar distance, a little bit more. Mm-hmm. In terms of the offer, we've tried to make it a lot more premium. I mean, I enjoy doing the Morocco event, and I'll go back as many times as I can as my own swimming, because, of course, when you start organising, you end up not doing it. So you've got to preserve a challenge for yourself in there. But you're in a tent on the sand, and it's pretty authentic the first time round. After that, I'm I quite like my nice hotel, my recovery time and my shower and everything else. So so the event we've created is kind of validated on the swimming front by that one, but then a very different level from a safety and which is not a reflection on their event. Their event is what it is. It's a wild swim across the Sahara, around the Sahara dunes, and it's fantastic, and I love it. And I recommend it to people. But we've tried to do something a little bit different in terms of the actual product, but nonetheless, 4 days. And we tried to do over a long weekend in particular. So,
right. Was there actual trekking in that one?
No, it is.
Okay,
just
so it's
swimming.
just okay. Right,
well, I say that. I mean, the race itself is just swimming, but you do actually walk quite a few kilometers because it's very shallow. I mean, so they call it a lagoon, but it's not. It's a huge, great big. What is the right word? It's an inlet, but it's 40 miles long. So it's super shallow. There's so much sand you can't see your hands actually because there's so much sand in the water, but you're swimming generally in like 2-3 meters of water, and the tide is quite tidal. So actually, you end up doing these huge long walks at the beginning or the end of quite a lot of the swims, just because you're so far away from the actual the high water mark. So it's quite interesting from that perspective, quite unique as a spot. But I try to swim that each year because it also reminds me of actually how tough it is to swim 30 plus kilometers over 4 days. So I can stay tuned with what my clients that we're trying to attract into the UltraSwim 33.3 event. I think it's good to remind yourself and understand what you're doing. I think as an organizer, it's easy to get detached from. You have so many issues to manage. It's easy to detach yourself from what the emotions are and the things that are important to the swimmers or the runners or whatever it is, whatever sport it is. So I would try and keep my own swimming going in that way to try and keep close to those touch points and those what's important. So I'll hopefully go back and do it again this year. So I've done a few. I've done Gibraltar Straits and Rottnest and a few other channel crossings, which are I love those challenges. But as you get older, some of the longer distances, I think people either get very comfortable with doing longer distances, or their body gives up, which is my case. And once I get above 10K, I'm hurting. I'm not hurting from a fitness point of view. I'm hurting tendons and different things. So I suppose my event is I created for me. So in terms of multi-day and distances that are not 10-11K is the longest distance, and the water's warm, and I'm trying to go to places where it's crystal clear and turquoise water and attractive from that point of view, but nonetheless have the competition side, which I'm a competitor, and I love that competition side in whatever form people wish to take it on in, and I think we're a long way from the testosterone at the front of a triathlon, let's put it that way, but nonetheless there is some of that at the front.
Well, it's healthy, isn't it? So you've got Croatia in May, I think, and Montenegro in October. Yeah, cool.
And we've got we have a third one actually in mid-September, which will be in Greece. We haven't made it public, so I won't go more in detail than that. It's a bit of invitational at the beginning for the loyal people we've had in with us since the beginning. We did a first test event of UltraSwim in September 22 with 25 swimmers, 30 swimmers, and we'll do effectively the same in Greece in September of this year. And you'll call it a pioneer event. It's kind of founders event, and allows us to still people are paying to do it and run as a full event, but at a smaller scale where we get to understand the area better, make sure we've got the right suppliers. So when we scale it up, we've learned a few lessons along the way, and that's the idea in terms of how we're trying to grow. We're trying to get to 8 events in 2026, which is very aggressive sort of, growth rate in terms of energy to get things in place and equally to grow our customer base. But we'll have close to 400 swimmers this year across the events. We've sold out Montenegro with 200 swimmers completely already, and we're still obviously 9 months away, or 8 or 9 months away. So that's the other reason for adding the Greece event in September, because we've got people that we can't fit, in fact, now anymore in this year. So very different venues in many ways, different water temperatures, different conditions, different visuals. And that's the idea. Each event, a different theme. Montenegro is mountains and fjords. I mean, it's phenomenal, phenomenal place. Croatia is islands and turquoise waters. Greece is unique in its own way as well. And so it's each event aiming to have a different feel and theme, but always very consistent. Friday to Monday swim, 5 or 6 swims over 4 days, 33.3 minimum, a marathon on day 3, and trying to be very, very consistent. We're in 4 or 5-star hotels. We have some entry packages where we're sharing rooms to a greater degree, but we're trying to be at a top end delivery, sports massage when people get out of the water. We've got coaching, physios. We're doing lunch every day. We have the non-swimming partners follow the event as much as they want. They're close to it, but they don't have to be watching swimming for hours either. But they're all there at the lunch spot, which we try to do in different places. So we're trying to create this whole package. And, some people are coming in and out last minute on the Thursday, flying back out Monday night, those that need to. And other people are staying and, day either side and turning it into a bit more of a holiday. But we're trying to keep it nice, tight, compact. Yeah. Full kind of punchy package and everything included, lots of everything included. So, but we'll see how it evolves. But that's how it seems to be working quite well so far.
Yeah, that sounds great. The kind of full package options and everything you need: massage, food, accommodation. All of that side of things is a headache sometimes when you're traveling abroad for events, isn't it? So I guess the only thing you need to worry about are your flights, and that's quite straightforward, I suppose.
That's it basically. So we meet people. We sort from people arrive at the airport, and then we try to manage everything after that. The only thing we don't actually include is the dinners, because we like people also to go out and be using the local restaurants and things. So that helps with our venues and our relationships with the venues, and it's nicer as well to do that. But we're breakfast and lunches, everyone's together. We're going out on the boats, usually by boat to the start line after day 1. And boats back in. So there's a lot of mixing and connections, and the people are making bonds that I think don't happen so easily on the single day events. Because they're in the morning. There's the great footage in the morning. There's lots of nervous people quietly talking to each other, and it's sunrise, and we start early. From a safety and a weather conditions point of view, sunrise starts basically. So not everybody loves getting up that early, but the advantages from a safety point of view, from the water conditions. Generally, it's the best time of day, and it also means we're finishing the swims before lunchtime every day, and so people have the afternoons back with perhaps they've got their partner with them who's not swimming, and they have the afternoons to recover. And the recovery in a multi-day event, from a sporting perspective, how well you look after yourself, recover, stretch, nutrition, treating the injuries you might have. All these things are super important, and how well you eat, and that's part of your performance, and that's quite an interesting aspect. And we've partnered with Precision, a UK company with Precision Fuel and Hydration, who are, we did a webinar last week, really great attendance. It's super interesting. You've got to think about other things. You're not just feeding yourself for the same day; you're feeding yourself for the following day. If you bonk, if you really don't look after yourself in one of the swims, you may not be able to recover fully for the next day. So it's that's super interesting. People understanding their own bodies and nutrition. Our aim is to send people home better swimmers than they came, whatever that means. That means they're more comfortable in salt water, which some people are swimming in lakes most of the time. It might be they've had to swim through some rougher conditions, which they've never done before. It might be we do video analysis in the pool, in the events where we've got the pool facilities. We're doing one-to-one video analysis. They might technique-wise go back with something else. They might simply have just got done their first 10K marathon. Whatever. We want to hope. Our aim is to send them back a notch further on in their mind or in their body, in their technique, in their learning, or just simply in their relationships in the community, in the community they've created. So we're just a platform, really. With amazing stories. I mean, we're a young event still, but the stories we have are extraordinary. People that have been through just crazy trauma, and this is we're a bit of a kind of turning point chapter in their lives. I'm kind of humble and honest that I'm honoured that we can be that platform for people. But the stories have been extraordinary already, and hopefully that can continue. I just feel like we're a bit of a facilitator for people pushing themselves out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, brilliant. And yes, Precision Fuel and Hydration, they're popular in the swimrun world. They've been supporting a few events, and some good gels they've got as well. I've used a couple of theirs. So so moving on to Swimrun, there's only one. I was just, as you were talking there with the multi-day aspect, there's only one really. It's slightly different to your package. The one water race in Sweden, which is a point to point, which is similar, but you don't. There's not that stopping at lunch and hotel. It's more kind of adventure race style, where you're given a few orienteering points, and you've got to decide your own route to get to all those points. It's about 250k, which is pretty extreme. It's very extreme actually. It's not. Yeah. But I could see. I mean, could you see a swim run similar to your kind of package there, like a multi-day swim run with
Yeah, well, I mean, Michael Lamel, who has introduced us together, but and co-founder of Otillo. I mean, we've talked about, he's on our advisory board, and he swam the last event in Montenegro, having not really ever swum more than 2K, I think, before that, because obviously the swim run distances, you swim quite short distances. So he did it, and he completed it. He started very much at the back, and then kind of developed and got confident and stuff. So Michael, I've talked about that a few times. I'd love to create. I mean, we're aiming to do 8 events, each with a different theme, and I'd love for one of those to be a multi-day swim run, but in the style we're doing, the pure swim event right now, where you are competing and then you're recovering, resting, and doing a different leg distance and different challenge the following day. I think it's tough. I think it's really tough, perhaps tougher than the pure swimming multi-day, because swim and run to get already is a difficult combination, muscular-wise and everything else. So I think it'd be quite interesting to see how, what distances you could be doing each day and it be reasonable to get to the end. But again, with recovery and with everything you can put around it, I think people will be amazed what they can do, and the same advantages, just a mix between people and the connections between people, because you're suffering a bit together, if you like, getting through it, and then you're recovering together, and then you're up again the next day doing it. I'd love to do it. We've got to find the right venue. I mean, doing one in Sweden is an obvious starting point, and it's certainly on our radar and discussions with Michael to add in. But we would try to make it very similar format, so it's consistency again. There are the same kind of hotels, the same kind of structure, same kind of setup. Long weekend as a starting point for those that are super time constrained, and try and again add in the recovery services, have the massage at the finish, and have the physios, and have the stretching, and all these different things that go with it, and clearly the nutrition side. So I'd love to do it. I think it would be great. I'm not. I need Michael's support on that, because I'm not the swim runner. So the specificities of the technical aspects of the course, I need to bring in the right expertise to do that. But it is certainly part of our ambition to include one of the 8 that we're aiming to put in place in a swim run format. So we'll see. Watch this space, and maybe we can get you to come and trial and test the concept.
Yeah,
if we can't get you to do this pure swim one before that, which I do think you need to come and do a 33.3 yourself. So
yeah, well, I did the swim run in Croatia 2016, and it was brilliant. Yeah, Croatia was amazing. The water there, it doesn't happen anymore. But it was around Hvar. I think you're. Yeah, I know.
I've been with I was there yesterday.
Right.
With all the people that Eva and all the team they still talk about it as one of the best events they've ever had. And actually, the island of Hvar is trying to make a big switch and get away from being party town and everything else. And they have they have the Spartan Sprint World Championships in October. They have they're looking at some triathlons and stuff. And our event will kick off their season, and they still refer to the Otillo event in Hvar as one of the best things they've ever had happen in the town. And so that's really left a mark. And there's been a great help for us getting going, because people are very keen to get those kind of events back and that kind of profile of people back in the town, rather than necessarily the Carpe Diem nightclub on the island off of Hvar being the focus of their marketing. So I think it's that event. It's a fantastic place for that, right? I mean, lots of little islands and little channels to cross. And I've not looked at what the course was, but I can imagine it. I was out there yesterday, literally on the boat, imagining how you'd swim and then you'd run and then swim again and stuff. It looks like it would have been fantastic.
No, it was brilliant. It was the year I did it. It was pretty windy, and it was memorable day. I'm sure a swim run will happen there in the future, because it's just it's a great spot. So 8. You're going for 8. So I get Do you think you might put? I mean, I know you're looking for clear water and warmer water. What are your thoughts on the UK for a 33.3?
Yeah, yeah. So I've said it, made it quite clear. I kind of like the warm and clear water, but I think there's inside the eight. Inside the eight, I do imagine there being a UK event. I think I'd look for something a bit different, whether it would be a river based one, or whether it would be I'd say around the Isle of Wight where I was born, but it's a bit far. So, and it's a bit complicated on the weather front, but it's a 100k swim. So, but tidal. So there's something, got to do something a little bit different, I think, in the UK to make it the right thing to do when you know it'll be colder. You're not going to be swimming in the same conditions. And could be a lake, could be lake based, could be lock based. I think there's some great options, and it's definitely inside the 8 that I imagine doing. But equally, there's a limit to the number of events we can do in Europe, just because you can't do events in July and August or really anywhere, because there's no hotel. Because for us we need the hotel as well. We need the base.
Right.
It's very hard to get a hotel to be interested in hosting an event that is over a long weekend in high season. So, and then water traffic and safety and everything else, everything becomes complicated. So you end up in this May, June, September, October in Europe, and there's a limit to how many events you can fit in. So for us, equally, our clients are coming already from nearly 40 countries, so around the world. So equally, we imagine a South American event, we imagine an Asian event. Perhaps not North America, because it's probably one of the most complicated places to do, actually, from a just organisation and legal and everything else perspective in the US. But certainly South America, Central America, Asia, we imagine 3 events coming from those regions where we're able to do, or Caribbean equally, able to be doing them in the Northern Hemisphere winter, and then five events in Europe, which could well include the UK. But they have to be quite a standout place event to attract the non-UK audience too. But that said, the UK is one of the biggest, certainly per capita, it's probably the biggest open water swimming market, I think, alongside Australia, France, in terms of number of people participating in open water swimming events. So equally, it's a huge, it's a big market in the UK. Even if a large part of the UK market is the dip and cold water wild swimming side, which is fantastic, but we're a little bit more event, let's say, or a little bit more challenged than that aspect. But nonetheless, the UK I can see it. It's about a third of our clients in 2024, participants in 2024 are from the UK.
Right. That's cool.
Followed by all sorts of other countries in smaller numbers. So
yeah, good stuff. And so you used to run, you don't swim run, but I know, because you stopped running before Swimrun was invented, I guess. But you used to run. Yeah. What was your last run, Mark?
I think the last one I actually did was 2004 Chamonix half marathon, and the Chamonix half marathon was a full marathon. I can't remember if it was the full or the half, but you basically got to go uphill non-stop. So it's pre-trail running really exploding and becoming the big thing. But it's effective, the trail, it's a trail race. And you start in Chamonix town, you run up the valley to where I'm sat right now, and then you turn around, and then you keep on running uphill, and you finish above Chamonix, and then take the lift. And you finish above Chamonix and take the lift down. So, and I have done since some verticals. So straight the 1K verticals, which I love, but my knees can't cope with the going down. In fact, I can't cope with the flat and the going down, which is why swim run I'd struggle with. But the up I can still do, and I do it on skis all winter. And then I've done Zermatt. I love the verticals; they're great effort, and I come down in the lift. It's the downhill that I can't do, and I think a lot of people, that's the bit that starts to not function anymore in the knees and the ITB and downhill. That was my constraint. I finished that last race on all fours. I mean, I literally couldn't walk across the line, so I was crawling up the hill. I remember, so it was the last time I did a big run. Unfortunately, because there's a great. I think the swim run was kind of made for me from a conceptually point of view, in terms of what I like doing, and I'm a strong swimmer. It would have been interesting. The only thing that the swim run bit I don't get is Michael and I had a discussion a few times is the paddles, because the paddles amazing how much you help their performance, but I'm not sure they're very good for you fundamentally. So because you're overloading. The bits that hurt for me when I swim long distances are the bits that you overload with a pair of paddles. And unless your technique is perfect, paddles, they're putting loads on things that are not necessarily ready for them. So that's my nervousness on Swimrun would be that today. I think the paddle side of things, but I think it's great. It's great what Michael did and the guys did. They added the buoyancy and the ways to make it more accessible for people. And swimming tends to be the sport that people struggle with most out of triathletes, for example. It's the sport people don't go to it as their first sport, at least in the past. And I think that's starting to change. It is the sport. The swimming is the bit that I think you can do for longest in your life, and it's it's the all body and it's mind and body and it's no impact. And I think that's there's a lot of growth in it from that when people are starting to realise they can't just pound the pavements or in the bike side of things, and the hours required to train on a bike is significant. So that's why I think it's a great future for the swimming part, because from a looking after your body perspective, it's one of the best. So we'll pick up retired swim runners and retired triathletes into our event. We are, for sure. But equally, I do love what the Swimrun concept stands for, and some of the courses just phenomenal. The innovation in the courses and where you can go and the distance you can go, which obviously we can't do in the pure swimming event. We're not travelling very far from base, whereas you're doing some phenomenal distances and in an amazing way. So I think that's I do love the concept.
With the paddles, I guess. I suppose you can train reasonably without too much trouble for a 1K swim with paddles, and there's majority of Swimrun swims a max 1.5K. There's the odd 2K here and there, but a lot of them are 500 meters, 600, 700, 800 meters. So, and if you've trained with paddles, it's okay. But I can imagine doing if you did I've never done a 10K with paddles, but I wouldn't do a 10K with paddles tomorrow, that's for sure. It's a good point. People, I think
it's not good. I'm not sure it's good, but the other thing is it's quite hard to convert swimming wise to a pure swim event from Swimrun when you get used to buoyancy and the pull buoy and slide, because the classic, particularly male, the classic swimming technique issue is just swimming with your legs dragging. So then you get used to the buoyancy and the pull buoy, and then how you get your body flat in the water for a good swimming profile is extremely difficult, and you get very addicted to your buoyancy. So I know that that's a challenge in converting Swimrun to swim, but actually you can resolve the technique issue, and then I don't know if does everyone swim with a pull buoy, or is that a choice that people make, or
it's
you have
a
to have a pull buoy with you, or?
It's totally a choice, and it's totally been evolved by the participants, really, of having been given the option to do what you like, really. But there's a maximum buoyancy volume, which is pretty big, and then you can take paddles if you want to. You can take. Used to be people took snorkels and flippers. But in the end, that wasn't a good, changing flippers at the waterside was just silly. And the snorkels didn't last. But you can if you want. And if it suits you, it suits you. But I'd say most people use a pull buoy, and some people don't. And it depends on the course. I'd almost always use a pull buoy, if not always. But maybe the only time I wouldn't, if there was a really strange swim run format where there was really short swims, and there was like a technical entry and exit point where the pull buoy might slow you down a touch, as opposed to just sprinting into the water and not having to faff with it. That kind of scenario. Because for sure. The transition in swim run is a big factor in terms of time. You lose time, gain time. Well,
the pull was interesting because the pull. I mean, if you worked on your technique and didn't need the pull buoy from if you're already wearing some kind of buoyancy in your shorts, I don't know if you wear shorts or neoprene shorts or whatever, but if you're wearing some kind of buoyancy there, you probably have enough buoyancy even with the shoes. I guess the shoes are now, I imagine, technically are not dragging you down as much as they might have done at the beginning of this. It's more adapted. But obviously, one advantage of the pull buoy is not kicking your legs, so you're preserving your leg energy, because your leg muscles are the worst thing. And open water swimming has evolved massively in that. You don't see people doing 6-beat kick. You're trying to not use your leg muscles because they're the ones that are burning the maximum energy, and that's again the advantage of the pull buoy. But you have the drag and you have the faff of it. I mean, it's interesting to see how it evolves, in terms of the techniques. But if you improve your swimming technique and you don't need the pull buoy to lift your legs up, then you will be faster. I mean, as long as you evolve into a 2-beat kick where you're not working your legs too hard, so you're not burning up the extra energy.
I think there is some development to possibly happen around the pull buoy and that whole the whole legs aspect of swimming, the swim run. Some people do just have calf guards, that are neoprene calf guards or some kind of foam, and don't have a pull buoy. I made my own back in the day, and I didn't like running with them, so I scrapped that. But some people do. It's fun actually, just experimenting with different ideas. There used to be these foam things you could put in your laces on your shoes, your buoyancy within your laces. All that good stuff. But I think you're right. If you've got a top swimmer like Hector Pardo or whoever who can do a 2-beat kick and his legs are horizontal, you could gain some time in the ins and outs. But it's all, there are course specific decisions to make sometimes as well. So with the Ultra 33, now we're talking gear. It's skins or wetsuit, isn't it? Optional.
Yeah, it's a choice between the two, and the rule we have is you can start in skins if you can change to wetsuit, and then you basically end up in the wetsuit category. So even if you've just done one swim in a wetsuit, I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot of people coming into this, but I'm not a traditionalist. I don't say, well, you're skins, so you're amazing. Wetsuit, no, you're less anything. I don't believe that at all. And actually, so wetsuits are a real enabler for people to come into the sport. They feel safer. They float without actually having to do anything. They are obviously warmer. They don't have the cold water issues. There is a bit of a risk because when the water is warmer, people are quite addicted to their wetsuits. And actually, there's probably safety-wise as much risk, if not more risk, from dehydration on a hot sunny day with a black wetsuit and a long swim where you're like on a bike. You're not on a bike or running where you can perhaps be sipping and liquid all the time. It's not as easy to refuel. That's a risk, I think, which is quite significant. And once the water's above 20, you don't need the wetsuit really. Most people don't need the wetsuit from a warmth perspective. Yet people stick with them. So that's a bit of a challenge. And we finished the last event in Montenegro. We finished 50% skins, 50% wetsuits. I think we started 60% skins. So we had some people, even though the water was warm. When people get tired, if they've not refueled properly, they get cold. So that's all part of managing and understanding your body and how long. Once you're beyond an hour's swim, things start to change in your body, and it's very easy to get cold. And we don't expect everyone to finish every day. I mean, with Montenegro last time we had 90-something% finish rate for the whole thing, but the first event we were more down at 75% because on one day someone would struggle. The water was a bit colder the previous year. So our event in Croatia is, beginning of the season, it's more going to be sort of 17 degrees, 18 degrees, and we'll probably start out with 60% people in skins, but maybe more people migrate to a wetsuit. We allow some swimming events still don't allow watches and things, so we'll allow watches. Which wouldn't be a surprise to Swimrun or anything else, but in a lot of swimming events, they still don't allow you to do that. Everyone's supplied with a tow float behind you, and from a safety perspective, the visibility of that is a game changer. And we have tracking. We're fully tracking live with the trackers inside the tow float, and that's a major safety point. And I think it's a bit like seatbelts in cars, 30 years ago, whatever it was. Once you start using, as an organizer, once you give everybody a big, bright tow float, and we're using small ones, so there's no drag. I mean, you forget it's there, but it's a game changer from a safety perspective. I know there's some resistance still, where it's not kind of traditional, but no one gets a benefit from it. I mean, it's a little bit of drag, so in theory, but you forget it's there. And it also means you can put a gel on the top of it. You could have some of your own nutrition, if you want. So obviously we have feed stations, and the kayaks all have emergency stuff on them, but but actually that helps people from a safety perspective. We're not running one-to-one kayaks, so the tracking is super helpful for us. We actually been developing we've got a new tracking device that we've been working with a Swiss company that I'm involved in, with software which is giving us alerts, for example, if there's more than 50 meters from a swimmer to the nearest kayak, something which I'm hoping to be able to take out and offer to other events by the latter part of this year, and actually rent that out to other swimming events, particularly crossings and longer distance events. So we're running alerts that tell us when there's the distance from a swimmer to a kayak or to the nearest safety asset is a certain minimum, but also when someone's swimming speed drops significantly as well. So just trying to preempt the safety things, which are quite hard in swimming. You can't see their faces. At least on Swimrun, you can see what someone looks like when they come out at a checkpoint. And we just don't have that. You have it at a feed station, but it's tough to ascertain if someone's really in a downward spiral. And obviously it's pretty dangerous in the water from that point of view. So just trying to move the needle a little bit on the safety side on those kind of things. But otherwise, equipment-wise, it's about anti-friction, and you're doing long distance in salt water that can become one of your biggest discomforts and things. So trying to work on those and work on them in a sustainable way, in the sense of non-fossil fuel-based lubricants and things, and suntan lotions, and we're a signature to the IUCN Sports for Nature, which is a new framework of how to run sporting events and outdoor events in particular. So all those little details really, really matter. We're a zero single-use plastic event. We actually provide the water bottles to everybody, so that it's against the rules to bring any kind of plastic bottle anywhere near the event. It's a small detail, but there's a lot of things like that are really important. We're trying to leave the place better than we arrived, in terms of things. And obviously, as a swimmer, you notice the water pollution is fundamental issue. And the single-use plastic one is as much about having an impact locally. Refusing the plastic bag in the supermarket when you're buying your extra supplies or whatever. There's a mentality that we can help impact on that. We're measuring all our footprint right now. We will be a net positive event this year. We're investing in plant mangrove for the bit we can't remove, the travel footprint in particular. We can reduce it, but we can't remove it. Then we're investing in sea blue carbon projects, basically, so mangrove plantations and likes. But the biggest thing we can have is an impact locally and influence behaviour locally. One thing we're trying to do, the bit at the event that's hard to get rid of, is and from a boat point of view, we've got medic boat, race director boat, transferring swimmers boats, but we're trying to get electric boat recharge, like Tesla recharge points, installed in the places we go, so that we can help the local boat community consider their next time when they change their boats to go electric. So, which for swimming is a game changer, because the noise and the smell of petrol engines is not good. So there's a loads to do in that area, but it's there's so much we can do and have an impact. So we try to leave really a positive impact with the event, whether it's on the social side or the environmental side.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've forgotten about I used an electric motor on a little boat once, and with some swimmers, and the noise was just wasn't there. It was an outboard engine, as you know, and the fumes, you get smell. The fumes. Yeah, it's not nice, is it? It's not nice.
So sensitive when you're swimming. You're so sensitive to it when you're swimming. I mean, I can smell a cigarette at 200 meters. I mean, I just because you're tuned in, your lungs you want every bit of clean oxygen coming in, and you're super sensitive to all those things. So there's a lot to improve in that side of things.
Yeah, and so Tesla, did Tesla do? Did I understand? Did Tesla do?
It's not Tesla. It's a company.
Oh, go on.
No, it's called it's a company called Aqua Power Marine,
right?
And they are installing rapidly these fast chargers all over the world. They're working. I can see at the moment they're really down the Spanish coast, for example. They're doing huge installs at the moment, and they basically install the infrastructure, and then their business model is later people are locked into using their chargers. But a lot of places we're operating, these are people, their livelihoods are running these boats for tourism and things. So they can't afford to go and stick it back in the main, they sit there for 2 hours not operating during the day. So the fast charge is the enabler to for them to actually consider going electric going forward. And it'll take time. It'll take time to change that. But that for swimming, it'll be a big gain. In Croatia, where we're in May, they are starting to have the same cool tourist boats that are transferring people around, if you like, but in electric versions. So it's starting. But yeah, the charging part, just trying to motivate the companies to put in the infrastructure is the first point, and then you might consider next time you upgrade a boat in your rental fleet or whatever, tourist boat fleets, that you'll use that solution. So it will take a bit of time, but it will be a big gain for the sport as that happens.
Brilliant. So thank you, Mark. We covered quite a lot there. So we got May is Ultra 33.3 in Croatia. I'd recommend it as a swim there in a swim run, but in terms of the water quality and just generally the place is awesome. I'll look at the dates again. We'll see. And maybe we'll make it one day. But if you did a swim run, then now we're talking a 4-day package. So
you're very welcome. You're very welcome to come and do the swim, and then in your afternoons go and knock out a 20K in the mountains, right? I mean, you can make your own swim run as well. Huh?
Okay, that's it. Okay. I'm in. Right. Well, Mark, thanks a lot for coming on, and I'll put the links in the show notes. And how's the snow at the moment in Chamonix?
Fantastic, actually. I did actually manage to squeeze in a 30-minute skin up the mountain this morning, and the best powder descent of the season. So I know that it's been a funny season. It's been a bit like last season, that the low down, a lot of resorts are shut, or really thin snow and everything else. But above 2,000 meters, which is in Chamonix where we are, all the good skiing's above 2,000 meters. It's one of the biggest amounts of snow for a few years. And last year will be, I think, the same this year. March and April, it just kind of snows every 2 or 3 days. Really great conditions. I've got a big ski mountaineering race on Sunday, so very happy that the snow conditions are fantastic, because it's hard enough going uphill for 2,300 meters or something. So going to do on Sunday. So I'm hoping the weather will hold, because right now it's blue skies, sunshine and powder. But yeah, if anyone has been hesitating because they've heard the snow's not good this season, then just as long as you go high, and Chamonix is phenomenal for that, then that's probably one of the best seasons there is. Easter's early as well this year, and if you're into that as well, then do it. And nothing like get your skins out though. Be ecological skiing, which is skins, go up the mountain, don't use the lifts, and that's huge here. So that's phenomenal fitness for the rest of your swim run season. Skinning is amazing. High altitude, fully aerobic, every part of your core. The arm action of skinning is very similar muscle group to swimming, and your lats and everything, and equally you're working out bottom part of your body in a big way. It's a great sport for preparing a season, ski mountaineering or the skinning side of it. So highly recommend it.
Yeah, no, it's great. What race are you doing on? Is it Sundays?
It's called the Tres de Grande. It's from Argentière at 1,400 meters or 1,300 meters, and then it finishes in the top of the Grand Monte, which is at 3,250 or something meters. Then you descend down a couloir and then climb back up another 300 meters up this steep couloir and pop out the top, and then finish with a descent. So, but it's quite unique in that it's a straight 2,000 meters up, and most of the skinning races are small, up and down, lots of summits. This one is straight. It's over a short distance and straight 2,000 meters, and last bit's on crampons up a steep slope with a rope, and then you ski down a bit, and then again up on crampons up a couloir. So it's quite technical. I have terrible vertigo, so the bits in the steep bits are stress me quite a lot. But it's a fantastic challenge, and it's a great sport for the winter when the open water swimming is not really an option unless you're into your cold water dips. It's not really an option in the winter, so great combo. But like swim run, quite challenging on the back of your legs to go from swimming to skinning, because one's in compression and one's in tension basically, and so it's always the transitions between the seasons are a bit tricky. But yeah, highly recommend it as a winter training sport if you can do it.
Cool. Well, good luck, and who knows, might see you in Croatia. I'll put the links in the show notes, and you can check that out, guys. And thanks again, Mark Turner.
Pleasure.
Okay, so that was a great chat covering all sorts, from winter mountaineering to pull buoys to hand paddles, sailing. So yeah, it was great talking to Mark about all of that stuff. And it'd be cool to have a long weekend swim run kind of package, like four races, 4 days of races that you can do with different distances and all eat together and accommodation and the whole shebang. So one day I'm sure it will happen. What else is happening? Well, we've got the National Outdoor Expo taking place on the 23rd and 24th of March in Birmingham. The Swimrun organisers have bought a stand, so we'll be there, or several of us will be there. It'll be good fun. There'll be competitions, lots of gear chats, I'm sure, and all sorts going on. So do join us if you can. I'll be there on the Sunday, the 24th of March. I can't make the Saturday, but I know lots of other swimrun people can. So whatever day you choose, it'll be worthwhile, I'm sure. So hopefully see you then. The Friendship Battle by My Swimrun Championships is happening soon. Now, what is it? Well, I'll link to their page in the show notes, but I'll just read out what it is. It's an activity-based challenge where participants enter their swimrun workouts to be added to their team and national total. And it's kind of a way to just motivate each other before the main season starts. A team should have a minimum of 5 people and a maximum of 10 people. A unit of training consists of a minimum of 2 kilometers, including at least 2 swims and 2 runs. That's pretty standard. The unit of training can be conducted on your own or in a group. You upload your unit of training from Strava or Garmin onto the Race ID system, which will be explained when you sign up. All athletes will be ranked as a person, as a team, and as a nation. So it's the 11th of May to the 9th of June. You form a team. I'm forming a team called WeSwimrun, not surprisingly. So if you want to be in my team, just send me an email or a DM or a pigeon, and we'll get things going. And yeah, you can actually include races as well in your training. So if you do a race in that period of time, they can be added to your totals. So that's quite cool. So just looking at the races in the UK during that time, we've got the 18th of May, Swimrun Liverpool, the Eliminator. 19th of May, Southeast Swimrun down in London. We've got the 25th of May, Mad Hatter, Hokey Cokey in Cornwall. 1st of June, Tal Y Llyn Swimrun in Wales, Snowdonia. 8th of June, the Great North Swimrun. And I believe the As Keen as Mustard, Neen Valley, on the 8th and 9th of June, according to the race calendar on swimrun.com. So lots to log there. So we could do all right, as a nation if we get our teams sorted. Hopefully we'll get involved in that one. Last but not least, Swimrun Coniston has become a merit race for the Otalo World Series champs. So that's cool. I can't make it because I'm organising a race down here in Abu Dhabi, but it's a great course. So if you are doing it, best of luck on that one. And yeah, hopefully see you on the Sunday, the 24th of March at the Outdoor Expo. Other than that, guys, hopefully catch up soon.